start today's walk on the edge of London at Hampton Wick station, which might be a contender for my new least favourite station in London. It's very small and not that nice, but hopefully today's walk will be nice. We start off today's walk by crossing over Bushy Park, one of the royal parks in London. There's a memorial outside it to a shoemaker who lived here in Hampton Wick, Timothy Bennett, who campaigned for a public footpath across this park known as Cobbler's Walk. This isn't the path which we're going to take. We're going to skirt along the southern edge of it instead. I feel Bushy Park is the most underrated royal park in London. Perhaps it doesn't get as many tourists as, say, Hyde Park or Green Park. My personal favourites, I would say, are probably Greenwich and Richmond Park, so this is one I don't come to often, so I'm quite looking forward to getting to walk across this. This and Richmond Park are the two to come to spot deers, by the way. It's rutting season as well. There is a possibility we won't see any. They could be hiding over on the other side of the park. It is a very large one. I think Richmond Park's the only one to beat this one in size out of the royal parks. This is the Diana Fountain, located in the middle of a roundabout, and is probably the most notable feature of Bushy Park. This grand avenue leading down towards it with trees on either side is known as Chestnut Avenue and was designed by Sir Christopher Wren, renowned architect of St Paul's Cathedral, to basically provide a grand route down towards Hampton Court Palace. This was originally located in Somerset House, but moved here to Bushy Park. I'm going to follow this little watercourse which leads away from the Diana Fountain. Loving the autumn colours on this tree here by the water. I think this is a perfect time to cross Bushy Park on a nice sunny autumn day. You can spend a whole day wandering around Bushy Park. I've only done a couple of miles along the southern part of it. There are parts of it which I've missed, but I can always come back and do them another time. It's the location of the first ever park run, by the way, 20 years ago, back in October 2004. I'm just glad I got to see, I was going to say some deer, but actually it was just one singular deer. Come in via the Hampton Wick gate, and I'm leaving by just the Hampton gate. And I'm turning back on myself now, basically, to head towards a different Hampton, possibly the most famous Hampton of all of them, Hampton Court. And I get to do that alongside the magnificent River Thames. The official Thames path is on the other side of it here, but there is a little path alongside it here in St Albans Riverside. It's a bit of a strange sheltered area here. You don't even really get that much of a view of the river. This is a very old drinking fountain here. Definitely won't be drinking out of that anymore. I'm on a bridge over the Thames, which leads over to a private island known as Tagg's Island. It seems to be a little community made up of mostly floating boathouses, which is pretty cool. Nearing Hampton Court now is made obvious by this sign and the fact that I'm passing over Hampton Court Green. I'm fairly certain that I've done this before, as many moons ago on a school trip my coach would have parked up here and we would have crossed over towards the palace. There it is, the fantastic Hampton Court Palace, a favourite of King Henry VIII. He claimed it in 1525 as a royal palace from designer Thomas Wolsey. It's very impressive, even if I'm just getting a quick glance of it as I'm passing by. Right by Hampton Court Palace you have the River Thames and a bridge which passes over it, and the Thames path does do that as well. On the other side, you get a great view looking out towards the palace from Cigarette Island. That's an interesting name, isn't it? I believe it gets its name just from a boat which was moored around here, which had the word cigarette in. It's not the most interesting story. Also on the other side of the Thames here, you have the terminus of the R68 bus route and the terminus of a branch line here at Hampton Court Station. Where the palace is in London, the station is outside of London, as the bridge marks the boundary between London and Surrey. The River Thames is not the only river in these parts. You also have the River Ember and the River Mole, which are making its confluence here. Now, until the 1930s, there was a different Hampton Court Bridge sited a little bit to the left. You can see when you look at maps, there's a particular road which would have led straight onto the bridge. Now, where the modern day bridge is where the River Mole would have originally met its confluence with the River Thames. But when the bridge was built, it was rerouted to join the River Ember here instead. And here you have both the River Ember and River Mole merged, running under the platforms of Hampton Court Station to meet its confluence with the Thames. You've got to come quite a ways around to see the confluence between the Thames and the Ember, and also now the Mole as well. And on the other side there, you actually have the other end of Cigarette Island. The railway is in the way, so it's a bit of a path around to get to this point. But I did see it is kind of like an unofficial path which does go under the railway. It can be a little bit slippery though, so be careful if you're going to take that. Passing over Summer Road Recreation Ground in autumn to reach Thames Ditton now. St Nicholas's Church, Thames Ditton. Quite a fine little church this. Most of my walks I seem to pass a church at some point. I've not been to Thames Ditton before. I have to get a shot of the Thames whilst I'm here. Seems a nice enough little place. It's the only other station on the Hampton Court branch line, and I have not used that before. Walk down through the village of Thames Ditton. I'm now crossing Giggs Hill Green. There's a lot of seagulls out on the cricket green over there. A surprising amount. And once across Giggs Hill Green, I've come across a village sign here for Thames Ditton. Is that the church marked on there? Swan at the top as well. There was a Swan pub and a Swan Island, I think, out on the Thames. Ah, there's a little miniature railway here. And just behind it you have a really tiny river just called the Rythe, which I think is a tributary of the Thames. And right beside the miniature railway you have a huge junction of big railways. This is the branch to Hampton Court that is splitting off of these two lines, both of which go towards Guildford in a completely different direction. In Angel Road, a little ways up, just as the railways are beginning to diverge, you get quite an impressive little viaduct here. I've seen it whilst travelling on that railway line before, as you get a good view of it out of the window. So I've always wanted to come here and see it on foot. I've climbed up One Tree Hill, even though there are several trees in the area. Slightly muddy climb up here. I thought it might be, now that we're entering the winter months. You get a good view of Heathrow far in the distance over there. I can see the control tower sticking out and some planes coming in to land. I've made it up from Thames Ditton into Long Ditton now here at St Mary's Church. Got a couple of green spaces to pass through. Don't think they're particularly going to be that interesting, but it's nice to tick more parks off of the list. Crossing over Long Ditton Recreation Ground, which seems pleasant enough on a nice sunny afternoon. And as we re-enter London, got another little recreation ground. This is Victoria Park, not the Victoria Park in East London, or several of the other Victoria Parks which probably exist across the capital. This is St Andrew's Square. A place like this with nice houses surrounding a green in the middle is a place which you probably more expect to see in central London, not out near Surbiton in southwest London. I'm in a place called Seething Wells. I'm near the River Thames, but I can't quite access it because this peculiar piece of land is in the way. These are decommissioned filter beds. This is an old waterworks site that would have supplied London with water from the Thames. It looks so much cooler than I thought it was going to be. Much wider and much deeper too. It's very interesting. This is just lying here beside this road. A London bus stop where no London buses stop. The old waterworks is right on the edge of London. But back in the day, this would have been part of Surrey when it was part of the borough of Surbiton. That's another old borough sign to add to the list, one I have not seen before. This is nice. I did manage to access the River Thames just before I'm turning off of Portsmouth Road. And my final little park of the day is Claremont Gardens here in the Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames. Magnificent clock tower here as you leave Claremont Gardens. It's known as the Coronation Clock Tower, as it was designed for King Edward VII's coronation in 1902. And I end the walk here at Surbiton Station, which is regarded as having one of the finest station buildings across the entire network, and it really is quite impressive. The opening scenes of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince were filmed back there on the platforms. They were very different than the opening scenes of the book. When Surbiton Station first opened in 1838, it was known as Kingston, as the railway company was not granted permission to build a station closer to the town centre. This is actually the sole reason why Hampton Wick Station exists, because they still wanted to reach Kingston, but as close as they can get was on the other side of the River Thames. However, locals of Kingston pushed for a railway station to be built closer to the town centre, and so they extended it over the River Thames on a bridge. But at this point they had already kind of promised that there would be a station on the other side, and thus Hampton Wick Station was born. I like how there's a very loose connection here between the start of the walk and the end of the walk. But what a great walk it was, exploring new parts of London across the brilliant Bushy Park, outside of London as well. And I suspect as we enter the winter months there will be a lot more London walks coming soon, so subscribe if you would like to see them. In Angel Road, little ways up, just as the railways are starting to divulge,